श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादं शङ्करं लोकशङ्करम् देवि शारदे ज्ञानप्रदे ज्ञानेश्वरी ज्ञानवाहिनी ज्ञानकोशं समुद्घाटय ज्ञानसुधां सदा वर्षय अन्तर्ज्योतिर्बहिर्ज्योतिः प्रत्यग्ज्योतिः परात्परः ज्योतिर्ज्योतिर्स्वयं ज्योतिः आत्मज्योतिः शिवोऽस्म्यहम् हरिः ओम् तत्सत्। Namaste. Our Sanatana Dharma is a finely tuned web of culture, customs, traditions, fine arts, literature being rich with jnana. Sanatana Dharma is Jnana Kosha, rich treasury of knowledge. Our Guru Parampara, it is a sturdy boat of knowledge, Jnana Nauka, starting from Sadashiva all the way to the present Guru, Asmadacharya Paryantam. It is sailing on the river of knowledge, Jnana Vahini. This Jnana Nauka is carrying all the Gurus, Rishis, Munis and Darshanikas. This boat is led by Jnaneshwari Sharade, who is magnetically attracting all Jivatmas by sprinkling Jnana Sudha, the nectar of knowledge. Jnana is immortal, Amrita. It is sweet and nourishing like Sudha. This Jnana Sudha is essential to every Jivatma to realize the supreme truth, Brahma Satya. With the blessings of Sharadamba and our Shringeri Sri Jagadgurus, SVBF is having the vision of conducting Jnana Sudha as an ongoing satsanga with scholars, revered Swamijis of various ashramas, artists of various fine arts sharing their knowledge. Let us take part in sipping this Jnana Sudha to become a real good human being and to grow as divine being. Swagatam, Suswagatam. The whole universe is the manifestation of the power of Supreme, the power of Brahman, Prakriti. To understand and experience the whole universe as Prakriti, our Sanatana Dharma has shown, guided many paths. Among all, the very practical path which every one of us can follow is to understand and experience as I am part of the nature, Prakriti, and not me versus the whole Prakriti. Today, we have with us Dr. Giridhar Kinhal, whose deep love for nature and his experience, direct experience with plants, trees, and animals in deep forests have given him the abundant opportunities to know the divine value of Mother Nature, Maa Prakruti. Let us listen to him today, his knowledge, wisdom to relate to the nurturing of our life
with coexisting with nature, Prakriti. Who is Dr. Giridhar Kinhal? He is an Indian Forest Service officer, former Principal Chief Conservator of Forests, Madhya Pradesh, Director of Indian Institute of Forest Management, Bhopal, which is a national educational, research, training, and consultancy institute under the Ministry of Environment and Forests, Government of India. His commitment to his work, his passion towards work, has taken him to 85 countries in the world to work on various projects connected with forests and nature. So we are all blessed to have you, Dr. Giridhar Kinhal. I welcome you to speak to us your experiences and share your knowledge with us. Thank you, and the mic is yours.
Okay, never mind. I've finished my introductory, salutations to parents and gurus, and I will take up the matters soon. Uh, Firstly, I would like to welcome the listeners and the enthusiasts from my part of the globe, and also the other part of the globe. Part of it is, lighted in it's evening for us and morning for you, and good morning and good evening to everybody on this Zoom meeting. The today's topic, of course, preferred by me and accepted by the Jnana Sudha agency in Canada, it talks about Pragatehe Moolam Prakritihi, which is self-explanatory. What we want to understand is the whole concept of development is embedded. If we want to learn from nature, it is embedded in the nature. That's what my whole deliberation would be today, talking about my whole 38, 39 years of experience in the forests and close association with the nature, what all I could pick up from in terms of what we want to do, and then derive that learning from nature to be adopted by all humans, and whole globe has to be in that format only if it has to be sustainable and tenable. The three aspects which I am going to talk about would be how nature nurtures, how nature encourages coexistence, and how nature prefers heterogeneity. These are the three, I would say, which would frame my today's talk. And I would like to talk about, every morning we have grown with this kind of, shloka chanting. We used to call it as Karagre Vasate Lakshmi. I have altered a bit, which talks about Vrukshagre Vasate Lakshmi, Vrukshamadhes Saraswati, Vrukshamuleshu Astitvam, Prabhate Vrukshadarshanam. If you see a vibrant tree in the morning, the whole development is seen in the tree. And that's what this shloka, which altered shloka from what we all used to rise with, in the morning chanting this shloka. So if you look at, I have put together some 7, 8 streams in which I would like to just, deliberate and bring forth my staunch belief that the nature has everything embedded to guide the development of humanity. First of all, look at nature's bounty. If you look at the nature's bounty, you're already confident that there is much to learn from. There is diversity, there is heterogeneity in the. If you look at go to any forest in this part of the world, you will see plenty of species, plenty of ubiquity, plenty of the species growing, flowering, fruiting, and all those things. You can see how vibrant the nature is. You also can see the density of the forest, which talks about I will take every species along. That is the message which the Prithvi is sending to all of us, but which we seldom really relate ourselves to that kind of diversity. And if I have to tell you what is the diversity, there are more than 50,000 species in the world, of which only flowering plants, if we take, we have about 20,000 species found in this part of the world. If you take every species in the globe, that would cross whatever is known to the humanity is about 40-50,000 species, of which in India itself there are 6,600 medicinal plant species known to the humanity. There might be many more species which the Sushruta and now the Charakas and they have told every species is medicinal, but the current knowledge says it's only about 6,600 species which are known to be medicinal as of now. And the if you see what kind of nature has been very graceful to this part of the world is every hectare of a forest area in let's say India part or some kind of Indian subcontinent. If you look at the forests, we have about 207 species per hectare. That is huge diversity which can be seen in the forests. Vis-a-vis, if you look at the temperate and the northern latitude forests, they have only about 7 to 10. I'm not differentiating. The God has differentiated this. The whole humanity has been, given to understand that these people require less, and this is where the people here, where the population of the whole globe is found, these people would require more species. That is the message from 207, more than 207 species per hectare known to the humanity. Maybe some more which we are yet to discover and which bring them to the knowledge ambit. If you look at the human habitation and look at the resource distribution, more the population, you will have more diversity, even in terms of nature's diversity. That's what I explained in terms of more species found here, more species useful to the humanity. That is what we have been looking at. I used to walk in deciduous forest. I have walked in the rainforest. I have walked in the evergreen forest. I have seen the difference. The number of species itself is huge in this part of the world, and number of species which has been definitely which is less in the western or the northern latitude populations. If you look at the human inadequacies, there are inadequacies in this world. It is said, my experience, and if you look at the whole globe, east is poorer, west is richer in terms of wealth, not in terms of nature's wealth, in terms of wealth as we define the cash, the money, and in terms of the development and all that, west, whatever level you go, west has projected itself to be wealthier and east is poorer and poorer. That is what there is inadequacy and some kind of iniquitous distribution, both in terms of species, both in terms of the dependence on the nature. The people this side of the world, they are more dependent. That is the inadequacy which is there. They have to depend on the nature and then relate themselves to how to extract that and achieve that development which is required. The association of this plenty in this part of the world is seen in the knowledge of the people, the traditional knowledge the people have, which otherwise you won't find anywhere. I have come across a good number of papers which talk about more than 4,000 ethnic communities live in association with the diversity which we have here. That's a huge thing, and each of those communities has knowledge about those species, what kind of use we can derive, what medicinal use we have from those species, etc., is embedded in the culture and lifestyle of those people living in and around those forest areas. This is definitely a distinct thing. The knowledge is totally associated. Same disease found in one part of the let's say one ethnic community, it treats that disease by some other species, and the same community, if you come down to the southern India, the same cold, cough, whatever it is treated by some other species. That kind of differentiation is there already in the knowledge systems embedded in these ethnic communities. Looking at the cultural ethos and cultural knowledge of these people, they have already built that into, like, for example, Nakshatra Vanas, Rashi Vanas. They have collection of species which are going to be useful to different kinds of subsets of humanity, and they have identified that this Rashi or this Nakshatra, these are culturally, we may not be knowing, having scientific explanation to be convincing to everyone, but over the years they have built the traditional knowledge that these kind of species are suitable for particular Nakshatra people, particular Rashi people, and we are in Karnataka trying to evolve a Vedavana concept now. What are those plants and trees mentioned in Vedas which we want to put together in one place and see that they become available to, their products become available to. That's one concept we are trying to develop. Look at the festivals in this part of the world. All festivals, all festivals. I would say they are all associated with something or the other from the nature, and they derive that only then the festival is Ugadi, for example. We have Deepavali, we have Ganesh Chaturthi. All festivals are linked with one or the other natural element, especially the plants and trees. This makes it very distinct that the richness of diversity is linked to the richness of the traditional knowledge as well as the cultural diversity in this part of the world. What it sends us and makes us understand is that man is part of nature, not apart from it. This theme has to be remembered all the time whenever we plan any development. As the title itself says, Pragatehe Moolam Prakritihi, we have to learn all these things that you cannot think yourself as apart from the nature. You have to think always that you are part of the nature. There are certain things, as I said, coexistence. Coexistence has, for example, several meanings. One is occur together, and the other is flourish together. I have observed the forests. Each species has its own preferences for other species. It is seen in their nutrient cycling. For example, a tree growing, let's say, to 60, 70 feet, it looks after the smaller layer, the smaller vegetation, herbs, shrubs growing below, by dropping those leaves and putting the nutrients into the soil which are suitable and required by the lower level species. This is the mechanism they have. They have developed that mechanism saying that you also live. I will let you live and I will also live. I will drop the leaves with those contents of nutrients which are useful for the lower level. We do that. In urban development, what we do is we throw away everything and we don't want anything and we build our own domain and kingdom, and we'll see that. We can see. I was in US. I couldn't see any animal, any bird all through. What has happened is we call development sans the species. But the forests and the nature convey to us that you live with the species. You have to nurture the species. The nature is telling us that you learn from me that you have to nurture the species. Then only your existence is also going to be useful. Co-nurturing, as I said, the nutrients flow always proves that I will take care of you is the message from the larger, the bigger ones, in the bigger species in the area, and the smaller ones are taken care. Thus, in each of the forest areas, I have seen associations. A sal forest will have its own associations, and teak forest will have its own associations. Associations means flourish together. That is the coexistence meaning. Then bioelements, if you list, they are interacting with each other. What we used to do when we took the children to nature camp inside the forest, deep inside the forest, I used to take when I was younger, and teach them how these species coexist. Not only plant species, but even the animal species coexist. That's what we wanted them to understand. What we used to do is each child, 60 or odd children used to go with us. Each child was associated with a particular tree nearby, and we asked them to spend whole day to understand the interaction with the whole living system there. So they would come back listing, although may not have written the scientific names, but they will say rodent, insect, and all kinds of things. They saw the interaction with the tree. That is the way the whole forest nurtures other species, even the animal species. That's what the lesson children used to learn is live and let live was the concept they used to learn. They used to list around some 20 to 25 species, proving that the nature has message for coexistence, not definitely for elimination of any species. Then, as I said, uh, good indicators and bad indicators are also given out by the nature tells us that these are the good indicators for a particular set of species. These are the bad indicators. If you try to plant and bring some foreign element, foreign species and plant elsewhere, that's not going to be nature's way to accept it. We have tried that. Those mistakes we keep on doing, saying that something growing better in some other area, bring and plant it here. That's not going to be successful. And we have examples like eucalyptus has spoiled, casuarina has done. Some of the species were wrongly planted. These are all lessons we have learned because we did not take care of the association which the species per se requires to be associated with other species. That's the message, that you cannot put me anywhere. The nature says, my endowment you cannot spoil. If you spoil, you will also be spoiled. That endowment thing has to be the message from the nature to understand. Then the human species has, currently what I notice is its own dichotomies which we have established. For example, there is a tendency to create symmetry. Given anything, we create gardens symmetrical, we create forests symmetrical. We have a tendency to move towards the symmetry. The whole universe, all nature is indicating that I am not symmetrical. I don't like symmetry. I want to be heterogeneous. I want to be completely full of heterogeneity. And there is nothing like some kind of symmetry established in the nature. But human species is spoiling everything by introducing symmetry in wherever they want. So that is another message which the nature tells us. If you want to develop and derive the benefits from nature, you have to always encourage asymmetry. Follow me is the message given there. Then other thing which human species does as against the nature's preference is the building of homogeneity. We would like to have monoculture. We would like to bring, one species and plant up in hectares and hectares and millions of hectares, same species planted because it is giving me money. That is not the preference of the nature at all. It always says, mix me up. I want to survive with other species. Heterogeneity, bring in heterogeneity so that I survive and make people to derive more and more benefits from the nature rather than resorting to monoculture and spoiling the message of the nature and disintegrating the whole, the nature's capacities and putting only one species or preferring homogeneity is not the thing. Third thing which we do, as I would say, a folly of human folly, which is about we want to fasten or the speed up the timeline. That's another wrong thing which we have done in the nature, that something which has to grow in 60 years has to grow in 60 years. It can't grow in 30 years and give the same benefits. So this kind of, convoluted development path which we have really adopted is telling us that you are going to moving towards disaster, and which in my lifetime itself I have seen things happening which are not supposed to be happening as per the nature's message. In this context, I would like to just add up and say, there is much more to learn through very intimate interaction with the nature, which I have done during my 35 years. And I used to prefer going to same places again and again so that the vegetation there invites me. I used to feel that the trees are inviting me, that they are happy when I go there. This was the feeling I had developed during my interaction with the nature. And that's how everyone, another exercise we used to give to the children when we had in these nature camps was stand below the tree which you love, listen to it. And in about 3 days' time, they would come back and say, I heard the tree saying this. That's the attachment we could build in them. Over the years, I had developed so many. I was in the Bori Reserve in Hoshangabad district of Madhya Pradesh. I had somehow, developed that kind of, love for that area. Quite often, in a month or so, I used to go there and see the trees uh, growing and calling upon me, saying that you have come back. It's nice to see you back here. And that was the message. I tell you, they live silently and they look at you silently and they prefer your coming and they encourage your interaction with the nature. That is what one has to achieve, so that you feel the pain when all these disasters and cutting of trees, cutting of forests is done. You feel that I'm losing my really intimate friends, and the association which I had developed in 35 years, some of the areas definitely they were lost. I would prefer to play the video which is I have circulated, and that would send and strengthen my argument, what I want to convey through this deliberation today. I request the organizers to play the video. Any problem? Okay.
हीच मुची प्रार्थनान, हेच मुचे मागणी, हीच मुची प्रार्थनान, हेच मुचे मागणी. माणसाने माणसाशी माणसा समवागणे. धर्म जाती प्रांत भाषा वेश सारे संपुदे. एक निष्ठा एक आशा एक रंगी रंगुदे.
Here, if one can notice, the younger one is returning to its mother and feeding, because the old age bird cannot fly, cannot fetch its food, but it has to live. So in that context, nature is telling us that as much you take, much more than that you return to that, because there is no old age home for the bird, no savings which it has not done, and no pension, which is old age pension, etc., given to the bird. So this is how what we are currently doing, drawing more than what is the potential from any forest area or any natural elements. We have to think in terms of, are we really giving back to the nature whatever we have taken, or much more than what it has to be sustainable in future. This is a big lesson we need to take from Mother Nature, that please take all developmental aspects from me, but always remember, you nurture me to be nurtured. Thank you very much. I welcome any questions if the people have.
Thank you very much, sir. On the chat screen, I see one question. Can you say a few more details on Vedavana? Where is it done? What's
okay. So the Vedavana concept is just a recent one, and we are interacting with the Forest Department and Government of Karnataka right now. We are putting together the whole visualization. I can just share with you. We will list out all the species written in all the Vedas, and geographically wherever these plants can be grown, we will identify areas within the state if possible, or else move into the whole country and plant them and make them available to the people. For example, the species for Tulsi is there. Tulsi must be available in plenty for people who really take Tulsi for puja, and many other species. For example, I saw in southern part of the country during Ganesh Puja, specific leaves are being used. Currently, they are not available. The whole concept is being developed. There is a team working on it. I am part of it, and we will make a presentation to the government of Karnataka and bring out this Vedavana concept across all the districts. Whatever species are to be planted, we will plant them in such numbers as to cater to the requirements of the people during those specific festival days and their puja requirements.
There's a follow-up question to that. How can a
Okay.
forest and current urban development coexist?
Yes, it is possible, but only thing is planning. Even now, there is I would say, lack of planning is not the reason. As per plan, we don't do anything. If you look at the planning for any how much area has to be left for planting of trees, all that is there on paper. But when it comes to implementation, nobody does that. While cutting the tree, they say there are rules in every state now that you have to plant at least 5 more before you cut one tree. But who plants? So the implementation problem is there, and little more understanding in terms of how this planning has to be done. For example, southern part, eastern part, western part, what kind of species have to be planted in urban development? They are all science part of is available, but only thing is implementation and adhering to the requirements is not done properly. It is possible to be done.
Thank you, sir. I don't see any more questions. Maybe we can wait for 30 seconds if somebody wants to pose a question. After that, I request Dr. Parambat, our trustee, to say a few words. Param?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, thanks, Ravi. Namaskara, Giridhar avare. So it was a very enlightening talk. This is slightly different from our usual lectures that we hear. We very rarely come across experts like you who have lived and worked within the forest and animal sanctuaries and such. So it was very nice to hear from you, and hope we can hear more of such information. Particularly, how my concern is, what's happening in the Western world is all the trees and forests are being cut down and destroyed for the sake of developments. So how can our children, we have to go far away even for children to see what is a forest. So it is very nice to hear from people like you how these things can coexist. And one other things I would like to hear from you one of these days is how wild animals exist within these ecosystem. That will be another day. We would probably like to hear from you.
I would like to add to that what exactly we have to learn from another thing from the nature is no animal kills its prey for tomorrow. Wild animals inside the forest, they would not kill anything, even if the prey is moving around once they are full, they will not kill that animal for tomorrow. That is what is harming this humanity, that I want to have it for a whole year and possess it. That is not nature's communication at all. I have everything, don't worry. This is the communication nature gives. That is embedded in the animals. I have seen tiger moving around with the deer. Once it is full, it doesn't even look at them. And even this is understood by the deer, and they would not be disturbed if very coolly moving around tiger is there. They won't be disturbed at all. This is what I feel we have missed somewhere.
So they don't put their found wealth in a bank for the next day for children and all that.
Not even kill. Not even kill. They know tomorrow also there will be something. When I'm angry, the nature is going to provide to me. That's the message.
Yeah. Thanks very much for coming all the way to Canada and giving us some highlights of your experience. And on behalf of Sringeri Vidya Bharati Foundation, I would have liked to offer this shawl to you in person, but at present I have to be happy to show you on the app and then send it to you by post.
Okay. I'm delighted. I'm really thank you. I thank you profusely for giving me this opportunity to interact with whole globe. Being in the eastern part, and we are here in the I would say, developing country and trying to interact with the Western world. You have provided me this opportunity. Hope there will be some lessons picked up. Only message, as you were asking about in Canada, what the people must do. I have told when I was in the US for 1 year, don't plant the same species everywhere. Try to plant variety here. Make the nature, learn from nature and plant heterogeneity, bring heterogeneity to nature. If you make it homogeneous, you will have it. That's the message I have for people on that, in that part of the world.
Thank you very
Thank you
much,
very much.
Dr. Kinhal. Now I request our friend Gopinath to say a few words of thanks.
Before that, can I request Dr. Kinhal to tell any particular experience which you had with animals or certain incidents which really made you?
That's a good question. I have several, but I have to sift through and tell you about. Like, I have seen a tiger with 2 cubs, almost for 5 hours sitting in a machan, and that's a house on the tree, and so protective. The tiger was so protective. Even a small sound, some disturbance would alert the mother. So that is what is, again, as I say, mother is everything for children. And that is the one thing I have seen. And the other thing is they fight for food. Like, for example, I saw some porcupine and panther fighting just about half a kilometer from my rest house where I was sitting. I saw it, some 300, 400 meters away. Almost for 45 minutes, 50 minutes, the fight was going on. These are available only for those people who have their workplace inside the nature. That was the bounty for me. The nature's bounty for me was my workplace was there where people want to go in a lifetime or during holidays and all, spend their time there. That is how I have really enjoyed looking at the nature. And I can only narrate one more thing. As forest officers, we have to indulge in firefighting. Whenever there is forest on fire, we have to. It is conditional, and we would have taken an oath. I will not leave that place without lighting off the fire. That's the oath we take. And that night at about 1 o'clock, I had gone with my friends and my staff. We started lighting off. It was at 12:30, 1 o'clock. It went on for 1 hour, 1.5 hours. We were beating the fire and to see that it is lit off. And meanwhile, we were caught up in a circular fire in the forest. We could not see where to go away from. Otherwise, we would all be, burned that day. So somehow, one of my staff members told me there is a deer here. It's called sambar. We just follow that. It barked, and we just follow that. It will take all of us outside the encircled forest area, fire area. We just followed that animal, and I'm alive today. So what I'm trying to say is the nature's indications, the animals living with those kinds of vagaries have the answers. And I awarded that person, that staff member, gave him some award, saying that was a very good cue given to us. That's how we could all be out of that danger. So these kinds of events keep happening. That's a different session. But then what we have to learn from nature, I have tried to bring it together in about just 40 minutes or so. I hope it was useful. And if someone learns to look at the nature the way I have looked at and I have learned from nature, I would be very happy, and I feel this discussion and deliberation was useful. Thank you very much. Anything else someone wants to say?
Gopinath?
Yeah, Ravi Shankarji.
Gopinath, you are muted.
Yeah, any further questions before we conclude?
No, I don't see any questions.
Okay. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Dr. Giridhar, you have really rekindled in us the necessity for having to observe nature. We are cooped up in our corporate worlds and in society. with our own problems, that we learn not to, we've not taken the steps to listen to nature and, as you put it, at least be under a tree and listen to it. This message that you have of combining what we see in nature and what we see in our lives, and how we need to learn those lessons from nature in its form, be it plant or animal life, is very pertinent and very appropriate to the entire world and the audience who are privileged to hear to you today. Thank you very much, sir, for this session, which is really, in me, it really rekindled the necessity for having to observe nature. And in fact, the opening words you said, pragatehi moolam prakritihi, it so succinctly puts everything in 3 words as to how we need to observe and at the same time be part of it. And thank you for those words, which really convey a lot of truth and information for us. And in addition to this, we also learned about the 3 topics that you took on. One was to nurture, the other was coexistence, and the heterogeneous aspects. The one thing that struck with me when we were listening to it was the fact that in society, we tend to speed up timelines, and we don't allow things to follow their natural course of action or progression, if you will. And the symmetricity that we often look for is something that hurts us in the long run. And we don't quite grasp that aspect very well. Thank you for driving that point home and bringing the need for that attention for us. And this session has been very different from our normal routine, but at the same time, it has really something that helps us appreciate how we need to learn from nature and imbibe nature in our daily lives, so that what we practice as Sanatanadharma actually has more substance and meaning. Thank you very much, sir. And I just wanted to thank the audience who've been very patient with us. We had some audio issues along the way, but I really appreciate everyone's time in terms of being able to stay through this and listen to an excellent talk. In addition to this, as we conclude, the Sanatanadharma the practice that we've been following through the Jnana-Sudha series, what we have noticed is that the Vedas and the Upanishads, they've been handed down the generations to us through word of mouth. And much of those writings are in Sanskrit, which makes it very difficult for the common man. So we in the Jnana-Sudha team recognize that there is a wealth of philosophical knowledge around Sanatanadharma that's available in various languages. So in our going forward, what you will also see as part of the Jnana-Sudha team in terms of being able to work this out, we've been actively working and will be promoting a series of lectures in English on the following. One would be Jnanapanam from Malayalam, Tirukural from Tamil, Nankuttinamana from Kannada, Jnaneshwari from Marathi, Dohas of Kabir Das. These are some of the themes and topics that we will be looking to bring forward to you in the days to come as part of the Jnana-Sudha series in English. We hope and believe that listening to these lectures will widen our understanding and enhance our knowledge around these areas. Look forward to this information on our SVBF platform and site in Canada. Thank you.
Thank you very much for providing me this opportunity, and I hope it was useful. And if it was, I feel my gurus have done the correct thing with me. Thank you very much.
Namaste.